So welcome everybody to this week in Regen Network. As always, we'll try to do about 15 minutes of news and 15 minutes of conversation. There's a lot to talk about this week. There's governance proposals on the way, network upgrades, conversations about allocating community resources, all sorts of stuff to engage with. It's pretty exciting times. Markets are hot right now too, so just lots of cool things moving. So yeah, welcome to the community update for the 1st of September. All right, so first off, I wanted to just go over and let everybody know, remind everybody there are some pretty important conversations happening over in the forum. I myself am reminding myself that I need to go in and comment and engage with those. It's been a busy week, but there's a signaling proposal for permission credit class design. I want to talk a little bit about that again on the call. Ryan's here as well, so we'll have a quick conversation about this. There's also a really important conversation about the allocation of tokens that we promised in the white paper to go to Atom holders, and a conversation with the community about how to best fulfill the spirit of that promise with all of the new amazing tools enabled by IBC. And we'd really like essentially to engage the community to both strategize with us and to operationalize that allocation. And I'd like to talk a little bit verbally with everybody and get everybody over to the forum to chime in and share ideas and opinions. And then, of course, there's a new forum conversation. In the conversation about the ecosystem allocation, a community member was like, hey, why don't we allocate this for grants? And well, turns out we have a really sweet allocation already for grants. So let's also be engaging with that. So there's a community pool. We can be, as a community of token holders, giving significant grants to important work. R&D Inc. also has an allocation to be doing grant work. We've been busy on other operational fronts, but happy to just start digging in and supporting things. So really would love community engagement. So those are the major forum conversations. Please go over there, engage, and help us move this all forward. And I'll be doing the same. So I'm going to circle back around to this signaling proposal. I want to sort of like fly through some of the other news, but I think that's going to be one of the big conversations, or any of these really, if people want to start referencing and dialoguing about this. But for now, let's kind of keep cooking. This is some details about the community token allocation. Just wanted to remind everybody, or give more details about what's actually happening. I think Will Zoll is on the call from the foundation. So Will, do you want to take this and just give everybody a walkthrough of what we're talking about, and in the forum post over there, and what the key decision points are?
Yeah, sure. So 2 weeks ago, we had introduced this topic, and since then, the forum conversation has been moving along. I think as Gregory mentioned, through this forum discussion, it was pointed out that we do have the general grant pool as well. So this kind of community allocation is especially targeted towards the Cosmos community. It was originally going to be an Atom airdrop, an Atom holder airdrop, and as Gregory mentioned, there's new possibilities now, and just want to be reconsidering that. So certainly, and even the next slide here, Gregory, if you just want to move along, just brings us.
Before we move along, I just want to share what I think is really exciting, which is the opportunity for our blockchain through IBC to send funds, community funds, to another blockchain, to their community pool, to be administered for instance, yield farming for liquidity positions, or for them to execute an airdrop, and for us to have a strategic protocol to protocol level conversation, community to community conversation, and really innovate that in the space. And that's one of the reasons why we want to have this as a community conversation, is because of the opportunity to really build mutual value and showcase what's possible in the Internet of Blockchain. So anyway, I'm pretty fired up about the opportunities here via IBC to really create some mutual value. So just to put in a couple of words about why I'm pretty stoked about this. So
Yeah, and I guess just on that note, zooming out to the Cosmos vision and why we support the Cosmos SDK and kind of the whole why we chose to build on Cosmos in the first place. It's really about this whole greater constellation of all these different blockchains,
yeah.
and so this allocation is in that spirit. And as Gregory's mentioning, there's some exciting possibilities on kind of the governance front, on innovating how governance is approached for this sort of allocation.
Yeah. Cool. So I just flipped over into the community grants slide here, which is really to detail out that indeed there is an allocation for community grants. There's actually two. One of them is the 2 million, 2% of the total token supply was allocated for the sort of pre-mined into the community pool, and then it's ongoing, getting 2% of total block rewards are going into that pool. So token holders, you have the ability to or non-token holders, but token holders decide, and community members can bring proposals. At the moment, it's sort of a little bit of a clunky governance process because each proposal needs to have total buy-in according to the governance process of a proof of stake, a Cosmos SDK proof of stake blockchain. However, I think there's a real opportunity. I know we've talked a lot about the opportunities for creating a little bit more structure around community, like sort of like the community management of these funds. So just a flag, there's a real opportunity to be thinking about how we govern in a more agile and effective way these funds to really distribute them out, leverage them. These funds could be used for everything from development grants to potentially marketing grants to payment for new credit classes. Like we as a community could be pre-buying awesome carbon credits or investing in the ability for people to bring credits to market. There's just a lot of really great things that we could innovate and just sort of be pioneering here. So what would you like to see funded? What are you interested in seeing supported? What are you passionate about? This is an opportunity. My bias is that the first couple of proposals focus on how we distribute these funds so that we can have a really well articulated set of processes to efficiently, effectively, and transparently distribute these funds. Because if it's just everybody voting on one community spend after another, it can get kind of frustrating, I think. But nonetheless, let's get in there and start innovating. So this is just a kind of a call. And I would just sort of pledge that R&D Inc. and I think the foundation as well would also be happy to support pre-work. Like if people have some energy and say, hey, I've got an idea about how we could be more effectively governing this, especially if you understand or are interested in the groups module and sort of the ability that's going to be coming online with Regen Ledger 3.0 to have some more effective sort of nested DAO governance functionality. I'd love to see some proposals about that and see people start to iterate. Of course, we're going to be paying attention to that in R&D Inc. And I know the Vitwit team is thinking about that. I know the foundation's thinking about that as well. There's a big initiatives getting started in interchain world around governance tooling. Nonetheless, this is a place where there's clearly a gap, and we would love to support community members for digging in and engaging. Will, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I just wanted to add that we are in the midst at the foundation of hiring a governance lead. So this will be that person who you can come to and say, hey, I'd like to put together a proposal, but I just need a little support getting together the details. And this will be that person. So just to say, we look forward to having more capacity to support you as a community in bringing these sorts of proposals forward.
Yeah, awesome. It's super exciting. All right, so IXO Airdrop for Regen stakers. We're really excited. Our friends over at IXO Foundation are finally launching their mainnet, which is super cool. IXO is kind of a sister project to Regen. They're also tokenizing impact. Most of their pilots have been on social impact, so there's a lot of complementarity where we're focused on ecological impact, they're focused on social impact. Um, they've got some really cool tooling. I'm super excited about the launch of their blockchain. If you're a region holder, you get to qualify for an airdrop by signing up for their sort of community uh, Earth State community where there's newsletters and sort of an opportunity for engagement. So I'm definitely I I keep procrastinating doing this, but I'm pretty excited about it. So just that's news in the ecosystem. You probably saw it on Twitter or a newsletter, but if you haven't, here you go. Go check it out. Uh, Pretty exciting and an example, I think, of hopefully how, over time, our relationships Regen's relationship as a protocol to other protocols is going to, this, just to note, this airdrop isn't happening to like Atom holders. This airdrop is happening to Regen holders because of an alignment of our strategic, really partnership to create this larger impact internet, internet of value, internet of regeneration together, and to be building tools together. So a lot of complementarity and excitement about where we can build more extensible, composable tools for, in our case, ecological state agreements, contracts, and assets in their state, in the IXO framing, just more broad social impact tokens, etc. Okay, so some other news here. I'll keep this brief and then maybe I'll pass it over to maybe Ryan to talk about if you're cool with that, Ryan, to just talk about the testnet here. So we just launched the Redwood testnet, and this is our idea is to really get into having a stable public testnet to be really serving a lot of our community. So I see Paul and Will and some other people who've been developing apps in Open Team, for instance. So this is really kind of for you. So with that, I'll pass it over to Ryan and see if just you'd like to give more details and context on this.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to what Gregory said, this is really an opportunity for the developers to play around with what features would be reflected on mainnet without using credits, your regen tokens. So the main thing here to think about too, in relation to the permission credit class approach that we are taking, is that the testnet wouldn't have an allow list enabled. So you will be able to create credit classes on the test network, Regen Redwood Test Network, and whatever you do on there would reflect how the same functionality that you would have on Regen mainnet. So yeah, we've spun up the Redwood Testnet, and we're also planning on updating the current DevNet 5, which is going to be called the Hambach Testnet, and that will have experimental features enabled. So we do still have the data module and an early version of the data module and the group module still within the Regen Ledger repository that will be available for experimentation on this other testnet. But the idea is to have this Redwood testnet that is a reflection of Regen mainnet, and then this Hambach testnet, which is a experimental dev network with more features that are not ready for mainnet available to developers. So yeah, we're really excited about setting up these two test networks and having people be able to engage with the Regen Ledger modules.
Yeah, and
in a live setting.
Just to sort of say on the Hambach testnet, which is meant sort of for just to be an experimental place, if you have specific requests for experimental modules, let us know. So if people want to start playing with the beta version of the groups module or something, like, hey, cool, we could potentially upgrade Hambach to reflect that so people could start playing with it. The idea is that, obviously things may break over there. It's more how to get a sense of how to leverage some of these experimental pieces and to allow us to be working together to bring them up into sort of a production environment. So maybe even CosmWasm, like, hey, maybe we have the CosmWasm module enabled again, because I know there's been some, work in our community around CosmWasm contracts and how they interact with eco state credits. And yeah, so there's just let's have fun over there.
Yeah, and one final just note on the Redwood testnet too is that this will be used to upgrade to Regen Ledger v2.0 before we do the upgrade on Regen mainnet. So this will be the final check, and essentially we're treating the Redwood testnet as if it were a main test network. So we won't be upgrading with the beta version or the release candidates, but we'll be upgrading once the official cut is been made for Regen Ledger v2.0, and that will do that right before the upgrade on mainnet. But that's it for me.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ryan. Right. Moving along here. Just just to give a little bit of data for folks, you may have seen this stuff coming through your social channels or checked in with some of the block explorers, but currently there are sort of curated IBC connections from Regen to Osmosis, Cosmos Hub, and SIFChain is about to get a connection going on. So there's a process to get Regen listed over there that they've announced on their end, and we're excited to see happening. And just currently report back on liquidity. There's a little bit over $15 million worth of Regen liquidity just on the Regen side of trading pairs on Osmosis, and a total amount of liquidity on the Gravity DEX of 4.5 million. So it's exciting. Exciting to see that sort of happening organically and unfolding. Excited for another DEX coming online, SIFChain, and then rolling out from there. I know SIFChain is going to be also, I believe, working to support things starting to, Regen trading pairs starting to happen over in SushiSwap and Uniswap. And it's going to be an exciting month or so as things start to really, the cross-chain DeFi ecosystem starts to emerge, and, the Regen community works to do liquidity provision out into these various different DEXs. So it's exciting to just see that happen. So circling back around to the news, I actually think this is from last week, right? That Cosmos SDK version 0.4.3 was released. There's another version 0.4.4 hot on its heels, probably going to be out today. Yeah, just exciting. I think we maybe we talked about this last time, but the reason why this is exciting, the 0.4.4 plus our eco credit module is going to be used for Regen Ledger 2.0. And that means that we have auth, Z, and fee grant available. And these modules were really born out of the use cases that we have for the ability to engage farmers and other folks with a blockchain that may be in situations where key management is a challenge. And so to be able to create the right user experience for a farmer, for instance, to participate in governance and or claims management and have their gas fees, for instance, paid by maybe a cooperative organization or a DAO that they belong to instead of to them paying for it, for instance, is a really sort of key functionality that we wanted to unlock. Another key user that we were thinking about with these modules was verifiers and scientists, where you may have somebody out in the field who is actively collecting data or doing data analysis and needs to interact with the blockchain to make an attestation in the process of minting a credit. And there may be a governing body or their employer or another entity that is paying gas so that they can just seamlessly interact with the blockchain, and we can still maintain sort of the rigor and integrity guarantees that having transactions actually enforce. Because in many of the blockchains that just have no transactions, great, they've got nice user experience, but you actually can't, you have spam issues and a lot of other things happen. So this is sort of a way to have our cake and eat it too, really. So it's exciting. All right, so yeah, we've been sort of alluding to this, but there's some really important conversations and really important work happening. We're driving towards Regen Ledger version 2, which is really going to have, one of the primary features that we've been working on, the eco credit module, the ability to express ecological assets on chain is coming. We're in the middle of a rigorous internal audit and testnet cycle with the community around this. There was some conversations. It's probably good to just sort of verbally talk about. Let me look at what the timing is. Oh, wow, we're getting already up towards the 30-minute mark. So I won't get into too much detail. Really exciting. Go check out the forum post. As always, you can check out our public Notion roadmap. Going to be trying to do better and better at keeping that up to date. If you don't have this already, go check out the Google link so that you can have any pertinent community functions or, this call, for instance, up in your Google Calendar so you can keep track. So with that, I'm going to just pause so at least we have a little bit of time to open up to any discussions, conversation. I'm going to check the chat. I haven't been looking. Okay. Cool. Okay, so current governance system limiting in the context of community grants and proposals. Well, so essentially what we have right now is a unicameral legislative system, one token, one vote. And if you think about there's certain things that's really important for, like consensus parameters or network upgrades, where really all token holders really need to go through the detailed process and have, consensus, because what we're doing is maintaining consensus about state. On the other hand, there's other sorts of things like a community grant, where maybe we want network consensus about areas or strategies for granting. So we need like a signaling proposal and maybe a process, but we might also want to delegate to some trusted community members that are going to run a transparent process to administer a granting program, for instance, because that allows there to be a lot more efficiency to take place. So there, we might have a situation where there's, the community says, great, this set of multi-sig holders have, every month have the ability to give X amount of regen in grants, and they need to they need to fit the following criteria and create this sort of report. And then if any of that doesn't happen on a month-by-month basis, maybe that's revoked, right? And that's the sort of community governance process I think might be interesting to be more efficient and effective at governing and distributing those funds. Because if we're all voting every time, a lot of us have a lot of other things going on, and you're ending up paying attention to a lot of details. And I think we want to save our collective governance bandwidth for these really big consensus breaking upgrades and do our best to create a system and process to be more efficient. So Paul, hopefully that gives you a little bit more color into, what I'm thinking about. There may be other opinions, which I think is also really welcome. There may be a case to be made to actually just go slower and have everybody decide on everything. And that's also a completely valid opinion. So expressing that and kind of getting into conversation on the forum, I think would be really useful to see where our center of gravity is as a community.
Thanks. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Cool. Yeah, and as Will's noting, just having access to the groups module for DAO structure, I think would be pretty cool, and also probably would parlay into this, because we could be thinking about how those maybe more efficient ways than just a multi-sig to governing funds like this and beyond. I know Open Team is thinking about is in the process of spinning up a DAO right now, and part of the function of that DAO is going to be governing funds for stakeholders. So yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Thanks. Yeah, exactly. Like that's, right now we're probably going to launch the DAO with just a basic offline multi-sig, but it would be great to be able to prototype some of these structures.
Yeah, cool. So the testnet is really, I mean, we've been thinking it'd be fun to dialogue a little bit more, Will, and maybe you and Ryan could have a chat. Maybe you, Dan, and Ryan could have a chat. Other people as well, just about your desires and needs, like what you foresee wanting to be prototyping and engaging with from the open team perspective, RSI, open team in this upcoming community staking DAO launch, so that we can think about what experimental features to prioritize over in that testnet.
Just
awesome,
as
thanks. Yeah,
and just to add to that, the group module will be available in the experimental build. It's something that's already available on the Regen DevNet 5, and the reason that it's not being added to Regen Ledger 2.0 is because we're actually migrating that module to the Cosmos SDK repository, because it will be used by a larger set of users in the Cosmos community for DAO governance and things like that. So it's actually a feature that's been approved as a module that we're going to include within this Cosmos SDK, but it's not going to be available until the next release of Cosmos SDK. So that's why it's not part of Regen Ledger v 2.0, because there would be some migration issues if we deployed it within Regen Ledger and then had to switch over to the Cosmos module. So there's some hesitation there, but on the Hambach testnet, the group module will be available within its current implementation within Regen Ledger while it's pending migration to the SDK.
Cool, and so that'll come out, groups module will come out with 0.45 of the SDK?
Correct, yeah. So the idea is to include the group module part of 0.45, but we're also exploring independent modules so that people can include modules without waiting for the next Cosmos SDK release. So that is another discussion on the Cosmos SDK side that is happening, and we're exploring with the group module, the NFT module.
Would that be the shift to 1.0 basically? Like once that is possible, is that kind of like, that's the level of stability that allows that modular, that like, okay, we've achieved stability and now you can choose from a set of modules instead of waiting for the next release?
Yeah, it's a big part of that. And that also, it's related to how we wire up an application on the Cosmos SDK side as well. So, but having independent modules is a big part of that. And so those pursuits are being explored at the moment in terms of what that would require. And things are looking good in general. It's a process. So we haven't done independent modules before, but the group module and the NFT module are the first two modules planned to be independent modules within the SDK.
Awesome. And if people are interested in this, what are the meetings or channels or processes that they could be engaging with on the sort of SDK dev side of things?
The best place to go on the SDK side of things is go to the repository on GitHub, go to issues, and at the top of the issues, there's a pinned issue that's working groups. And within that issue, you'll find links to all the discussions within the Cosmos SDK repo specific to the different working groups, exploring features such as like, how do we better align the govern group module, typed transactions, meta transactions, independent modules, like what would it look like to have the staking module be independent? So there's a variety of working groups, either in the design, implementation phase, and yeah, there's links to discussions, links to issues and epics, where you'll find a full list of issues related to that epic, and all that is available in the issues tab in this pinned issue within the Cosmos SDK repository.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
All right. Well, we just edged past the top of the hour here, so I want to respect everybody's time. As always, we try to keep it pithy, keep it to 30 minutes. So look forward to seeing everybody in 2 weeks. In the interim, if you've got questions or comments, please ping us in Discord. and please go engage with the forum conversations where there's some pretty important signaling votes around governance and these processes to just mature our ability to leverage the community funds that we have for developing our ecosystem. So until next time, hasta la regeneración siempre, and I'll see you all out on the interwebs.